Well, I'm part of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, and we've spent the last week in Eastern Europe, which would include Lithuania, which is on the border of Belarus, on the border of Ukraine, meeting with the target of Putin's ruthlessness and actually engaging with the presidents and prime ministers of these particular areas, pushing for peace, obviously before Putin's reckless, senseless, and purposeless siege and invasion into Ukraine. Still pushing for peace. Today I spoke at the parliamentarian session on peace and security at the OSCE, again, asking and demanding that Putin come to the peace table. But the main point that should be made is that the people of Ukraine are steadfast and resolved to fight. Meeting with them, one of the leaders who I met with today is en route back to Ukraine. His son will be called up tomorrow to go and fight. The bombs are falling near his house. He reported to us that children have been killed, hospitals have been hit. This is a terroristic act on part of Putin, who lied to the world and said that this was an operational effort, that he was not going to kill civilians. He's killed civilians, and more civilians will be killed, and more Ukrainians will be killed, and Russians will be killed. There'll be body bags going to Russia and body bags, tragically, in Ukraine. I'm calling for peace. I'm asking for Putin to come back to the peace table. But right now, I believe what President Biden is doing and the other allies and other nations by pressuring with defensive sanctions, I believe Putin is going to be brought to his knees.
Ms. Jackson, where were you when the invasion happened about 24 hours or so ago? Where were you? Were you in Ukraine at the time, or had you already gone to Lithuania?
We had left, and we had left Lithuania. By the way, we were near the border of Belarus, which is where the 30,000 soldiers were preparing to come into Ukraine. But we had left into Vienna, where we were meeting with Ukrainians and Russians and others about this issue.
And what were you hearing from the people on the ground in Ukraine when you were there? What were you hearing from the people there before this invasion?
Yeah, I was in the region, and we were hearing from people who had been there, and they were, well, first they were stunned. They kept hoping that Russia would not come. They obviously, because the United States chose to issue the intelligence that they had received, and so they were certainly more informed, particularly on the kill list, particularly on the issue of the make-believe humanitarian effort that Russia was supposed to be engaged in, saving the Russians that were on Ukraine's soil. They knew all of the make-up stories and falsities that Putin was going to do. So Ukraine was getting prepared. Obviously, we were sending in items or weaponry like javelins, which, by the way, they've taken out 15 tanks with javelins, as our friends have told us, our Ukrainian friends here have told us. So those have been very helpful. You know, I want peace. None of us want war, but they have to defend themselves. And so the equipment that has been coming in from the NATO allies has been very helpful. But there are real tanks in Ukraine. There are real people dying, and there are real targets that Russia is targeting that are civilian targets, of which he promised not to do. As I said earlier, these are terroristic acts. He is fighting a purposeless, senseless, and immoral war, and he's doing it simply for himself and the legacy of trying to cobble back a Soviet Union, which just cannot happen in 2022.
Had you already, was this trip already pre-planned, or did you go over there specifically because this was on the horizon, or how is it that you ended up over there in this region?
We remember this trip, this is a meeting that we engage in. Obviously, the timing was such that we thought it was important to be in the region because what Ukraine was facing, that is an ally of ours, a friend of ours. We're doing this working with our fellow parliamentarians and leadership That is why in some of the countries, as I indicated, we were able to meet with the prime minister and the president. Lithuania in particular just declared a national emergency in the last 24 hours. They are one of the targets. They're a small country, much smaller than Ukraine, 44 million. They're much smaller than Ukraine. They're concerned. Belarus has already been dominated and literally given up their own sovereignty. And I feel for the Belarus people because there are 30,000 to 40,000 Russian soldiers there. So we happen to be able to be engaged at the right time. We are here pushing America's position of support, alliance, and fight for peace. We support what the president's doing. We've been indicating that before we came. Secretary Austin was here expressing the support that would be given to Article 5 countries, which Lithuania is under NATO, that they would be defended if they were attacked. We reinforced that. But more importantly, we held the hands of people who are wondering how this could happen to them, how they are peaceful and loving of their independence and democracy, that is Ukraine, and why is Russia singling them out? Now, the difficulty that we should realize is that Russia goes after its friends. Putin goes after his friends. And the fear is that Ukraine is first and others are coming. And I think it's well known, it's been made known that they now have Chernobyl, and all of the workers, I'm told, by the Ukrainians have been made hostages at Chernobyl at this time.
Oh, I hadn't seen that. How long are you planning to be over there?
I'm heading back. We're finishing. We committed to continuing our dialogue as this proceeds and to continue to be briefed. Obviously, I'm on Homeland Security Committee, Intelligence Committee, Subcommittee, and Cybersecurity. We'll be going back to briefings. I'll be submitting a resolution to denounce the terrorist acts by Putin and to really focus on Putin's outrageous, illegal behavior. He has violated the UN Charter, the Helsinki Agreement, and the Minsk Agreement. He's violated all international protocols. And in the midst of UN security meeting, he invades Ukraine. I don't think he deserves the respect of a world leader anymore. And as a mother, and I know we're facing enormous challenges in our own city. I understand that. But we're trying to fight against that. When I say that, we're trying every manner that we can to make Houston safe. But as a mother, I am outraged that 5 and 10 and 20 children and more are being killed by the lack of discretion and indiscriminate forms of bombing that is going on by Putin and his stormtroopers that are coming into Ukraine. It is an outrage for everyone. There's a lot of bloodshed, and it is sad to see.
If we don't see a swift end, like if this goes on for another week or two or a month or two, what are the effects? A lot of Russian petrochemical interests here in the Houston area. Obviously, a lot of energy trading going on between the two countries. What do you see if this goes on another few weeks or even months? What do you see that effect here in Houston? What do you think will happen to us here in Houston? What will the effect be on our energy industry or just as a city as a whole?
Well, overall, the American people will be drawn into this, at least economically and certainly energy-wise. We are still utilizing fossil fuel out of the different regions that we happen to live in. We know that oil has gone up to $100 a barrel, even as of the last 24 hours, and there will be a pinch that we will feel. At the same time, Europe, Germany has just stopped moving forward on the Nord Stream, and that means that Europe will be feeling the pinch. This is a time that there will be some sacrifice, but I think the most important point we want to make is that this is a time for unity. This is actually going after democratic nations, and if we believe in democracy, we are a democratic republic. We happen to be bordered by two huge oceans, but Europe felt this in World War II and has felt it before. Georgia felt this when Russia came in. Crimea was taken from Ukraine. This kind of behavior simply has to stop. And I think democratic, loving people who love their government for its democracy are going to have to come together as we are and recognize that freedom is not free. And the people of Ukraine are fighting for freedom. I first want to make sure that I give sympathy to those families and the Ukraine Americans that are living in Houston and the Ukraine Americans that are living around the nation. I give them my deepest sympathy, but also I can say on behalf of the United States that we are resolved, Democrats and Republicans, and the President of the United States has been stupendous in this leadership, in his leadership, and has been unceasing in his denouncing of Putin and indicating that he will not get away with this. I'd hope that it would end sooner than later. Again, I have often and will continue to say, can the fighting cease, suspend, and can the peace table start again? Can there be diplomatic reaction that would allow a response and settlement of this crisis that we're in right now? The world doesn't need a war. It doesn't need the potential of a war that spreads across Europe. It doesn't need Putin being a terroristic and suggesting nations who are peaceful are acting like Nazis. I thought that was the most appalling words that I've ever heard. President Zelensky is Jewish and he's fighting for his nation. I don't know where Nazism would come in unless we're talking about what Putin is doing. This is horrific.
Well, Representative, thank you very much. I understand it's been a long day for you. It's late at night where you are, and you're busy. And I do appreciate you taking the time out to talk to your Houston viewers, friends and family here in town, and wish you a very safe travels back, you and your whole team. But thank you very much.
Thank you. And again, let me offer prayers, sympathy, and concern for my friends in Ukraine, but also my friends that are Ukraine Americans as well, and our neighbors in Houston. You have our prayers and our resolve to stand with you. We want peace.